exclusion, that doing this properly is going to cost money. And we shouldn't be afraid of that. We should be really brave in the way we move forward with this, to say that that is actually the socially just way to approach this, that addressing exclusion costs money. It just does. So that was my thoughts on a lot of those things. So Chris, do you have some?
Yeah, some really interesting things came up. I wanted to say something here that might make you feel more comfortable with thinking about different programs to set up. There is a difference between solidarity and segregation. There's a huge difference between that. And so if you do create, computer clubs or book clubs that are oriented towards a wide array of individuals who might struggle in more traditional ways of doing a book club or learning about computers or those sorts of things, what you're doing is you're opening up an opportunity that they may or may not take, and you're creating an environment where people can come together, some of whom have shared experiences or shared histories of struggles in the face of seclusion and subjugation and isolation and things like that. You're opening up a space that they can take or leave, and in that space, that solidarity, in other arenas, it's led to the disability rights movement, much of that led by folks with disabilities coming together and often saying, get the hell out of here, you non-disabled people, unless you are on board with us. So it's very different from Megan being coerced and forced into a particular educational situation, one that supposedly is open to all students, but then we begin to sort, segregation is not solidarity, it's forced, yeah.
I agree completely, because I think some of the ideas I heard about having choice, and it's choice for everyone, so giving diversity in the programs, but it's, like I think this table talked about, the family story time on Thursday night is quieter, and it's quieter, and it's going to be a good fit. Maybe they can choose that one or not, but you design that specifically, but you don't then say every time someone comes in, oh, you like this one, or go over to that program.
Right.
It's
there's a
getting
complex
diversity.
thing here. Yeah.
You do not say, okay,
Exactly,
we
right
hear
on.
this, let's do this.
Right.
And don't assume that each child will like a certain thing. Like some children with disabilities might like a big classroom.
Well,
so they can
exactly.
hide.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
But
No,
there is
I
that
mean,
there's that
diversity.
concern that we open up, perhaps a smaller sized. There are two dilemmas that just spring straight to mind. One is that it's parents choosing for their kid what it is they want, and well, that makes sense. And I always made, when my boys were little, their choices for them. Actually, that's a big lie. That's a huge lie. But in fact, yeah. But sometimes. Right, so we're relying on parents, and I don't really know a way around that exactly, but the dilemma is that they'll choose then that which seems more small and conducive, and so you end up with this parent-created, segregated sort of, so it is complex, but I do think, don't be afraid of opening up some options and programs that might in fact orient themselves towards people who have throughout their lives been excluded. There is something about creating how to run a computer thing for people who just have been denied access to computers, and maybe it'll be older people and people with disabilities who tend towards that, but that's not segregating them, that's opening up something that they might want to be a part of. So, and I do preach the gospel of inclusion, so don't think that I'm, all this. In public schools, those sorts of things must be open to everybody, and there's got to be a way of bringing kids together. But sometimes I think outside of school, there are ways of opening up useful opportunities for people who otherwise wouldn't take them, that are more conducive to their idiosyncratic experiences.
Yeah.
Oh,
Christy.
Thinking, because I keep coming back to the kind of place that we started in terms of rethinking and questioning the cultural normative models that we operate within. And I think that, and it also with Tess, is we're doing a great job in a lot of ways, but we can do better. And I still think that we're very comfortable with a lot of our structures, especially within Storytime, about whether we're going in with an outline of what we're going to be doing and where we're going to start and how we're going to end, and trying to open what would inclusivity really look like if we say, okay, we've got this, but how do we go one step farther? Because you don't always know what a child is going through, or whether they have a diagnosis or don't, or the parents are aware, or maybe they haven't got there. And so if you open it up, I think if we open it up to more kind of improvisatory, kind of flexible models, that there's the potential to be catching and supporting more children. And with that kind of belief that I know we've heard, I don't know if anyone's ever heard Shelley Moore talk before, about if you kind of build in those inclusive structures, you have the chance to benefit all children, not just the ones that you think need it the most, but actually all of them.
Yeah.
Whether you're building entangles or bringing stuffies in or whatever, like adding a little bit of what we might see as chaos into the programs, but in a way that's actually going to be benefiting all the
Everybody. Just to point you guys to a librarian named Carrie Banks. If you haven't heard of her, she works at the Brooklyn Public Library. She's the Inclusive Services Director, and she's written articles that are in children in libraries. She's very easy to find, her work and stuff. And one of the very wise things she said is, when people are trying to decide on things that are, put more inclusive things in their programs, is that, there's no one program that's going to work for all kids. And that's way too much pressure to say, oh, well, this program will work for kids like this, and kids like this, and kids like this. And some things that work for some kids are going to be averse, other kids will be adverse to it. So remove that pressure from yourself. I know I am full of a room of perfectionists, right? No, it takes one to know one. Seriously. So this is one of the reasons why we balk at this, is because we don't want to do it wrong. You will do it wrong. It's okay. That's okay to make mistakes, or think something you thought was great, planned for such and such, and it worked great for that kid, but the other kid hated it. There's not going to be a program on this planet that is perfectly geared to all kids at all times. What she said is try to have a bit, sort of like a buffet, I don't know if she uses that metaphor, but a little bit of everything in the program, so that there's a chance for, all parents want is for their kids to enjoy something. And I've had parents tell me that they really enjoyed that, and that's why we're coming back. Or they really enjoyed being able to touch that thing or do that thing or whatever. So just to relieve yourself of that notion that you have to completely, dismantle and recreate your story time because you have to match all of these diverse needs. No. You want to expand what you're already doing well, and just know that no child on the planet will love absolutely everything that you do at all times. It's not going to happen, and that doesn't happen in classrooms either, right? So I saw hands.
Oh, she's had her hand up long enough.
Okay, go, Mary.
I actually mostly just wanted to reinforce that coming from disability activism and self-advocacy, there are actually a significant number of accessibility challenges that directly conflict. So when Tess is saying that not every child, literally you will never be able to make the perfect accessible program, because the thing that makes it accessible to one kid will make it literally inaccessible to another.
Yeah.
The best that you can do is offer a wide range so that the kids that need a quiet program, whether it's because they have anxiety, whether it's because they're coming from a traumatic place, whether it's because they're autistic, whatever their reason, a quiet program is there, a more energetic program is there, like different kinds of programs. And the child may one week need a quiet program, and one week need a really adventurous program. So it's just, you're never going to have the perfect program. This is not a possibility.
Yeah. Thank you, yes.
And it's, people try for it and it makes
Yeah.
everybody stressed. And
Yeah.
it's just,
Oh, yeah.
it's honestly not possible. So you
Yeah.
have to have different programs for different needs.
Excellent. Who was next? Were you?
Did you
Mara,
have
did you have something? Yes.
Yeah, so my mother-in-law is a care aide. She specifically works with adults and children who are on the autism spectrum. And some caregivers are just in downright denial about their child's disability or diagnosis and refuse to kind of get any help for their child. So what we've been talking about now is kind of expanding, not just having specific programs for children with disabilities, but including that into all of our programs for all of our children. That gives these parents who are still working on coming to terms with their child's disability and coming to terms with the fact that they are going to need to search for help, you know, gives these parents, without putting right in the program like sensory story time, we can have all of our story times for all of these parents who don't feel like they need to be going to this specifically geared program, even
Yeah.
though they know it would be good for their child, they're still not there yet.
Yeah, good point. Totally good point.
I just wonder, like that's like training the trainers too, is I often find, I don't know if everybody's felt this, but I've often thought I've seen behavior.
Oh, totally. That was
And
one
then-
of our scenario.
Right, and then don't feel like I have the authority or the permission to question. You know, I've got one little girl that's been coming steadily and she's just exhibited behaviors more and more and more, and she's really lovely and we have fun, but her parents, we've never talked, and it feels like not really the elephant in the room, but I just wish I had some kind of a little lead in where I could just very gently say, you know.
Well, what someone else asked me that at the break, and what I would suggest, and this is, I have tried this, I've done this myself, and is just address the whole room of story time. Just say, oh, you know what, I was at this community fair or community, and I know these people who work in this organization called Infant Development Program, and you wouldn't believe how nice these people are. And you wouldn't believe that this stuff is free. Anyone who has any questions about how their children are developing can ask, and they'll come to your house and or whatever, and do the same thing with speech and language is usually the one. That's why I had that scenario about the kid who's not talking. It's pretty obvious in story time, the kids weren't talking, right?
Yeah.
You can just address the whole group and just say, just wanted to know, just want to let you know the library
Just
is a
general
resource.
development.
The whole room,
Yeah.
the whole room. And, you know, because I will tell you as a parent of a child with a disability who was told by a preschool teacher that they thought he had special needs, I said, no, he doesn't. I don't know what you're talking about. He has a neurologist. His neurologist would certainly tell me if he had special needs, like developmental needs, beyond his neurology. I was just like, no, you're wrong. And that's me with a master's degree who worked in language. And you know, that's a normal place for parents of kids who are developing differently to be. It's normal.
Yeah.
It's actually a good place for them to be. They need to be there. And moreover, the preschool teacher did not say, well, he can't come here. She just said, great, we'll just carry on with what we're doing, rather than, you know, you have to go off to special school. So, do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter whether this kid is diagnosed now or later. That's not your that's not our problem.
Right.
What is important is that you have a relationship
And they
with her,
feel
and
included.
you do.
Yes.
So great, you're doing everything right. Because I will tell you that if you go up to a mother and say, your child has a speech delay, they're never going to come back.
Exactly.
I had one of my best friends tell me that she thought, and she worked in preschool. She was a preschool teacher, and she said, I recognize Caleb has some delays. And I said, you don't know what you're talking about. Now, here I am doing a doctorate in the exact area of interest, and I talk very openly about what his disabilities are and whatever. So they'll get there. It's just, you don't want to be the person who says,
No,
they will
never.
not come back.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it's optional for them to come to the library. It's not optional for them to go to school.
Right. And the other thing that I just wanted to mention briefly is you mentioned how we're all perfectionists in this room. I think that's one of the most freeing things in a story time is if you're in the middle of a story and it's obviously not working, you just kind of go, oh my gosh, this is not working,
wheels on the
throw
bus.
it back in the basket, and,
Yeah,
you know, because
that's
then
cool.
you're a human being in front of the families
That's
that you're, and also to have, if we do a half-hour story time, I have a minimum of an hour's worth of material in my bag.
Yeah, exactly, good one. So I
Yeah.
think we're getting on to
Yeah.
lunchtime. Is
Maybe
there
last couple, or last question.
There was a hat, Sarah.
I just had a comment about, sometimes we talk about parents who know that their child has a disability, or parents who don't know that their child has a disability. Sometimes a parent may know their child has a disability as well, but that doesn't mean they know what to do or what their child would benefit from or needs or wants. And so it's just also kind of recognizing that some parents know, they know
And they're
what
happy
their
to tell
child
you.
needs.
And
Yeah,
some
and they'll
parents
tell you
know and they're not
communicate
happy
that,
to
and
tell you.
others really don't know. They know some stuff about their child, but kids are so unique. Every single child is unique, whether you have a disability or not. And so I like your comment about not trying to just, overhaul our entire storytime program, but just making sure there's pieces in there that, attract and are interesting and that families love, right? So that they can pick the piece that they
You can go to my blog and you can read all the things. Yeah, I mean, like you're all doing great. The fact that you're here and that you're contributing your ideas and that not one of you said, I wouldn't let the kid come, or I would tell them to leave. Like, but parents are told that. They are told they need to leave. Like this is not a lie. Parents are told, not just from libraries, but other programs, that you need to leave. There are children today in 2017 who are expelled from preschool. Yeah, I know it boggles the mind, but it does happen. So this is the discomfort that parents have about engaging with, community, with us, right? They feel like they could be rejected, sent away, and they want their child to participate. So, but not one of you guys would do that. So I'm not preaching to the choir a little bit, but yeah.
All right, it pains me to wrap up this discussion.